Hey, what's up, Internet? Today we are going to look at one of the topics that I see asked about the most when it comes to guitar and music theory in general, and that is modes. And before your eyes glaze over, stick with me, and I promise I'm going to do my best to explain it so that it makes sense. We're not going to get into intervals or chord theory or whole steps and half steps right now. We're just going to lay everything out on the fretboard in movable, easy to memorize patterns that you're going to be able to start to utilize right away. And after spending years trying to learn modes the hard way, I am convinced that doing it like this is the easiest way for guitar and bass players to really start to understand and begin to conceptualize the modes, why they're useful, how to recognize them, and most importantly, how to use them in your own playing. So we're just going to jump right into it. The first thing to understand, just from a definition standpoint, is that when we talk about modes, we're almost always talking about the modes of the major scale. People also refer to these as the church modes or the diatonic modes. All of those mean the same thing. We can apply some of the concepts that we're going to talk about today to other scales. That is outside the purview of this video for sure. So, what are the modes? Each mode is a scale, and there are 7 of them. Each one has 7 notes. So the modes at the basic level are a set of 7 7-note scales. Each one of them has a Greek name. There's the Ionian Mode, Dorian Mode, Phrygian Mode, Lydian Mode, Mixolydian Mode, Aeolian Mode, and the Locrian Mode. Okay, now on the most basic level, and if you only get one thing out of this video, I think that the most important thing that you have to understand is that, in my mind, there are 2 distinct ways that we need to think about modes to fully appreciate and understand them. On the one hand, we have to realize that each mode is totally unique. It's a totally unique scale with its own sound. It has its own musical flavor or color. It stands alone, independent from any of the other modes. On the other hand, we also need to understand that the modes are related to each other. We're going to look at exactly how they're related, but they all tie back to the major scale, is the short version. So being able to think about modes in these 2 distinct ways is going to allow us to do a few things. Once we're familiar with the unique sound of each mode, which does take some practice, it's going to allow us to use those unique sounds to elicit some targeted feelings or emotions in our own music, because that's in a large part what music is all about, right? Making people feel a certain way. And it's going to allow us to more easily identify what we're hearing when we're listening to music generally. Just as importantly though, in this video and in the free PDF that's linked to in the description, we're going to look at the first position of each mode on the fretboard and see how they relate to each other on our fretboard. Once we understand how the modes are related, we're going to be able to put those first positions of each mode together like puzzle pieces and form one big movable master scale that goes across our whole fretboard. And once we've done that, we're going to be able to play in any mode of any key anywhere on the fretboard. And this is going to go a long way in unlocking your musical potential, I promise. From here, let's take a look at our first puzzle piece, and that's the first position of the Ionian Mode. We're going to be in the key of A here. So the first position of each mode that we're going to look at is going to relate back to the A major scale. And I will explain how that is in more detail further on in the video. But the scale on our screen right now actually is the A major scale. And it might look familiar. If it does, great. You already know one of our puzzle pieces. This is the Ionian Mode, which is more commonly referred to as the major scale. So, on our fretboards, we're in standard tuning by the way, we have the 5th and 7th frets of our low E string. We have 4, 5, 7 on the A, 4, 6, 7 on the D, 4, 6, 7 on the G, 5, 7 on the B, and then 4, 5, 7 on the high E. And I'm going to go back to the 5 here and really highlight our root note because that's important to think about. So that's our first position of the A major scale, or the A Ionian mode in 2 octaves. Our second puzzle piece is the first position of the Dorian mode, and we're going to play the B Dorian here. So with B as our root note, we have 7, 9, 10 on the E, 7, 9 on the A, 6, 7, 9 on the D, 6, 7, 9 on the G, 7, 9, 10 on the B, 7, 9, 10 on the high E, and then back to 7 to highlight our root note. So we've got that's the B Dorian mode. Our third puzzle piece here is the first position of the Phrygian mode. We're going to play the C sharp or D flat Phrygian mode. C sharp and D flat are the same note. And we have, starting from the 9th fret on our low E string, 9, 10, 12, 9, 11, 12 on the A, 9, 11, 12, 9, 11, 9, 10, 12, 9, 10, 12, and then back to 9 for our root. Okay, puzzle piece number 4 is the first position of the Lydian mode. We're going to look at the D Lydian mode. And on our fretboard, that's 10, 12 on our low E, 9, 11, 12, 9, 11, 12, 9, 11, 9, 10, 12, and then 9, 10, 12, and then back to 10. So, puzzle piece number 5 is the first position of the Mixolydian mode. We're going to be in E Mixolydian. Okay, so we start on the 12th fret of our low E. That's going to be our root, and we have 12, 14, 11, 12, 14, 11, 12, 14, 11, 13, 14, 12, 14, 15, 12, 14, and then back to 12 is our root. So, P6 is the first position of the Aeolian mode. You might recognize this shape. It's much more commonly referred to as the minor scale, but it's also the Aeolian mode. We're playing an F sharp Aeolian here. So this is going to be up in the second half of the neck. We're going to play 14, 16, 17, 14, 16, 17, 14, 16, 13, 14, 16, 14, 15, 17, and then 14, 16, 17. Okay, that is our F sharp Aeolian mode. The last piece of our puzzle here is the Locrian mode, and we're looking at the G sharp or A flat Locrian. It's going to look like this. We're going to do 16, 17, 19, 16, 17, 19, 16, 18, 19, 16, 18, 19, 17, 19, and then 16, 17, 19. So, it sounds like this. Okay. After that, we repeat our first puzzle piece because we recycle that same pattern. and we play the first position of the A major scale, or the A Ionian Mode, 12 frets higher up the neck than from where we started. So we have 17, 19, 16, 17, 19, 16, 18, 19, 16, 18, 19, 17, 19, 16, 17, 19. And then back to that 17. Okay, so it sounds like this. And we got that same pattern, just 12 frets away from each other. Okay, so that's the first position of each of the 7 modes laid out on the fretboard. So now let's take a look at how we connect our puzzle pieces. If we look at each of our pieces, we can see that they overlap and interlock with each other to form this one big master scale, which repeats itself every 12 frets. And they connect in the same order that I introduced them earlier in the video. So we have the Ionian Mode, the Dorian Mode, Phrygian Mode, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and then the Locrian. So we've got this master scale now overlaid on our fretboard. Where it is right now is also what it looks like if we were to use the A major scale or the A Ionian Mode and lay that out across the whole fretboard. So what makes this pattern the A major scale, though, isn't just that we've picked out these specific notes on our fretboard. It's that we've picked out these specific notes on the fretboard in combination with the fact that we're hearing them in relation to A as our root note. So I mean, if we play an A, it doesn't matter where on the neck we're playing, as long as we're playing these selected notes in relation to our A, it's going to sound like the A major scale or the A Ionian Mode. So it's always going to want to go back to that A. We're hearing all of the notes in that scale in relation to A, and that's what gives it that A Ionian sound. Okay, if we keep these exact same notes selected on our fretboard, but we change our root note, then we're playing in a different mode. So for example, if we changed our root note from an A to an F sharp, we would be playing in the F sharp Aeolian mode. Okay, we'd be playing an F sharp minor scale, and it would have a totally different sound because all of the notes, even though they're the same notes, are going to sound different in relation to our root note. So we'll play over an F sharp. Here's our F sharp. Doesn't matter where in this master pattern I pick, I'm going to play something and our ears are going to hear it in relation to that F sharp. Okay? So our A, instead of being a root now, instead of being a 1, it's actually a minor third, because F sharp is our 1. So if we change our root note to a D, we're playing in the D Lydian mode, and we have another totally unique sound, again, using these exact same notes. Lydian's kind of a pretty mode. It's got a pretty unique sound. Here's our D. What makes the Lydian so unique is this raised fourth. Very Joe Satriani-esque. Lydian Mode's used a lot. He's got a couple really famous songs that use it. But same difference. I mean, if I'm using any of the first positions that make up this master pattern, doesn't matter where on the fretboard I'm playing, if I'm playing these specific notes in relation to a D, and our brains are hearing it, our ears are hearing it in relation to that D, it's going to sound like the D Lydian mode. So our A is now a fifth instead of a one, or a minor third. Okay. So, in this pattern we have 7 different notes to select as our root note. And each of those options is going to give us a different mode, because each of those root notes is going to have a different relationship with the notes around it. So importantly, I think the next question should be, what determines our root note? I want to be super clear. So what does not determine your root note? I see this advice given all the time when players ask about modes. A lot of times that the response that they get is you take your C major scale, you start on D, and you end on D, and that gives you the D Dorian. And that's, in a sense, correct, but it's not the advice that I think players need. What determines our root note is not what notes that we, as a lead player, start and end our phrases on. Okay? What determines our root note, what the listener's ear is going to put all of the other notes in relation to, is the chord progression that we're playing over, or the bass line that we're playing over. Okay? 90% of the time, that's what's going to determine our root note. Okay? So, if we're playing a chord progression, it's an A major, D major, E major, A major. So something simple, just like this. We get that resolve when we go back to the A. That's where our ear wants it to go. Okay? If we play an A major scale over that, it's going to sound like we're playing A major, because our root note is an A in that chord progression. Okay, if we do an F sharp minor in our chord progression, a B minor, C sharp minor, and an F sharp minor, back to our F sharp. Take our A major scale over that. The resolve is still the F sharp. Okay, so it's that chord progression that's going to determine it. It is not what notes we begin or end our phrases on. You can play an A Ionian without starting a phrase or ending a phrase on the A, okay? So it is the chord progression or the bass line or whatever you're playing over that in general is going to determine what your root note is, and that's going to determine which mode you're playing in, okay? So keep that in mind. I'm sure this is the first of many videos that I will end up doing on the modes. You know, it's kind of a complex topic. It's taken me a long time to understand them the way that I do. I'm not going to be able to get that through in a 10-20 minute video, okay? But stick with it. I do promise that it will begin to make sense. My advice would be to learn each of the first positions that we talked about independently. Memorize those patterns, be able to play those patterns. Then start to piece them together, be able to move from one pattern to another pattern and vice versa. You know, eventually our goal here is we want to be able to lay that master scale over our fretboard in our mind. We want to be able to anchor it to a certain major scale so we can move it from an A down to a G, down to an F, up to a C. We can put that pattern anywhere, okay, so that we can play in any key. And once we're in any key, we know where our relative mode positions are on the fretboard, and that's going to allow us to play in any mode by making that note our root note within that key. So I hope this was helpful. Thank you for hanging out with me. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. Please subscribe to the channel. Help me get this off the ground. You know, I'd like to help as many people learn as possible. So if you can subscribe, hit the notification bell, give me a like. It's going to go a long way. As far as what else is going on with the channel, I should have a Widener Music Facebook page live by the time this video goes up. So if you want to head over to Facebook and follow me there, that would be cool too. I'm going to try really hard to get a video out every Friday now. I was doing Tuesdays for a while. I think I'm going to try to do Tuesdays and Friday, but Fridays are going to be like the definite day that I'm going to get a video out for the foreseeable future. This next Tuesday, I think I'm going to put up a backing track for you guys, and then maybe I will do like a live jam session over the backing track. If you guys want to come in while I'm live and ask me questions or whatever, I'll answer them. Again though, thank you for hanging out with me, and really, if you want to subscribe and give the video a like, it would be a huge help. Thank you guys.